Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday to everybody out there. For those, I know in the US, I'm not sure about Canada and I'm not sure about overseas. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all of you fathers and paternal figures out there. I hope your Father's Day is going well. Hope the kids have contacted you in one way, shape, manner, or form. And hope it's a good day for y'all. For everybody else, happy Sunday. And I hope your day is going good as well, and that everything is going good for you. So, today is a basic open Q&A. You can ask me the question, and I will either try to get you an answer or try to send you in the right direction for said answer. So I think we'll get started with a couple of good questions that were put in the chat long before we went live, and get started that way. And the first one is a real quick, easy one by 8th Center. Can someone remind me how to write a unit converted line, working in millimeters, to make the line in inches? I keep forgetting this one. And I'm going to assume that you meant in the Vectric software. If you have, then we're talking about using the built-in calculators. So let me jump over here into VCarve, and we'll do that real quick. Say you want a line that you know is, I don't know, I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat here. You have a start point, say down here, and you know you want it to be, you know the line is 22 millimeters, but you want that in inches. So what you'll do over here to go to the next point, you're going to put in an angle of 0, which means it's going to go this way. And then you want a length, and you know it's 22 millimeters, but you can't remember the imperial conversion. What you'll do up here in the length box is you'll go 22, then asterisk, which is hold down shift and the number 8 out on the main portion of the keyboard. Then I for imperial. Then you'll tap in equals, and there is the imperial conversion. Then we'll click add, and that point is now 22 millimeters, or the conversion, the imperial equivalent. Now, if you want the next line back to metric, what you'll do is you'll type in, you've got the measurement there, asterisk M equals, and we're back to 21.999995. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but close enough. If you need more accuracy than this, you'll hop into the edit options, edit, then options, and change your change from 4-digit to 5 or 6-digit accuracy, whatever you see fit. But we've got the measurement here, and we'll go add. Whoa! Oh, where the heck did that go? Shouldn't be that ain't no 21 millimeters or 22 millimeters. Let's see what that is. Close. And we're going to go here. We're going to go into node editing. I'm going to come here and I'm going to cut this. Cut this vector. Cut. All right, so now tap N to come out of node editing. See what the length of this is. And that size is 22 inches. I must have done something wrong. but we can convert it anyway. We can type, and we can go to, no, that's going to make that 40% longer. I don't want to do that. That was weird. That was weird. I don't know how that happened. I must have entered something wrong. Let's go back and try that again. Control Z, Control Z. And let's go in here and let's draw a line. I know I want it to go an angle of 0. Then we'll go length 22 asterisk I. I think that's where I went wrong. Equals. All right, 0.86614. All right. Then we'll add, and I've got my measurement there. Okay. Now, for the next one, I want the same angle, but I want it to go times M equals, there's the problem. I did the conversion. That's going to go 22 inches. Okay, there you go. That's going to go 22 inches. I don't want it to do that, because my project is done in inches. All right. Okay. I got it. Okay. That's going to go in inches. All right. Well, anyway, the conversion from metric to imperial is *I. And the conversion from imperial to metric is *M. So I guess I have to write it as 25.4, then convert instead of writing like 1 inch or whatever. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that if you'd like. But anyway, the formula is *I to convert from metric to imperial, and *M to convert from imperial to metric. Wow. All right. Okay. So there is that. All right. So, and remember, you can put any question, comment, or concern in the chat here, and we'll get to you in the order in which it was received. So let's go to Ed's question. Ed's got a good one here. He says, on Garrett's show, they discussed bit. For those of you that don't know, Garrett of IDC Woodcraft hosts a Wednesday evening CNC Hangout. That starts at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, for those of you in the Great Plains. And it's, IDC Woodcraft, it's Garrett and Liberty. Sometimes they have guests. I've been a guest a few times. Sometimes it's just them answering questions, talking about bits, talking about CNC in general. It's a good time. It's a fun hangout. So I will put a link to IDC Woodcraft down in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished here, and then you can come check it out. It's Wednesday evenings, every Wednesday evening. So, all right. Regarding compression bits, what is the proper way to start them? Ramp, or because they have a cutting end on the upcut portion, do you plunge to the downcut area? I have them, but really haven't used them. Okay. There are a couple of ways to approach using a compression bit. But before I get into that, I'm going to explain to folks what a compression bit is. Basically, I think you know by now that there are a couple of basic type of bits that we use in normal CNC routing. And that is an upcut spiral bit. And the reason I put my hand here is try to get the camera to focus on it and not on something in the background. We have an upcut spiral bit, and the easy way to tell whether you're holding an upcut or a spiral, a lot of people will talk about the direction of rotation, and that is a factor. Then you can check that out if you want to. But the way you can really spot it is look for the shiny, sharp cutter edge. If it's on the top of the spiral, it's an upcut bit. Now here I have a downcut bit, and you can see the spiral goes the opposite direction. But here, the sharp cutter edge is on the bottom of that spiral. That's a downcut bit. Well, now let's throw in a one here, a monkey wrench into the works. If I can get the tube open. Here we have a compression bit. And if you look at a compression bit, it looks like it's going two ways at the same time, and it is. This top portion up here is downcut, and that's going to give you a clean top surface. But this bottom portion right here, for about 1/8 of an inch up, is an upcut bit. And then this section here where the two blend is the compression portion. So what's the purpose of that? A upcut bit is going to give you a clean bottom surface on a profile cut. But it's going to leave a ragged surface up on top because it's ejecting the chips up and out. It's cutting in that direction as well, and that leads to chip out, a lot of chip out, and a lot of stringiness in some materials up on the top surface. So with an upcut spiral, you're going to get a ragged looking, chipped out top surface, but a nice clean bottom surface. With a downcut bit, because the edge of the tool, the cutting edge, is cutting downward, it's slicing through those fibers downward, you're going to get a nice clean top surface, but you're going to get a ragged looking chipped out bottom surface. So upcut for a clean bottom surface, downcut for a clean top looking surface. Well, a compression bit, I just put it away for some reason. A compression bit combines the best of both worlds. Come on, Mark, get it out of the tube. Can't get the top off. There we go. It combines the best of both worlds. You've got the upcut portion down here, then you've got the downcut portion up here. So you're going to get a nice clean bottom surface and a nice clean top surface. The problem comes in where you're doing that initial plunge. That initial plunge has to be deep enough to bury that upcut portion in the material before it has a chance to splinter your top surface. So there are a couple of ways of handling it. This is a Jenny bit. It's the Jenny compression, the original Jenny, part number 8675309, because Cody's a nut and has a sense of humor. And it was designed for the smaller hobby machines that were prevalent when Cody first started Cadence Manufacturing Design. And I will put a link to Cadence Manufacturing Design where you can check into the Jenny bits. He's since expanded the line. It's he's really grown this business into something to be proud of. And it's a small one-man operation, but Cody is not only a solid person, he's a solid businessman, and he makes a very good quality product. He has also developed the downcut V-bits, which, in my opinion, offers some of the cleanest cuts you're ever going to get out of a V-bit for V-carving. And I encourage you to check them out. Number one, because I do support small business, and I support something like one-man operations, but also because it's just a fantastic product. I have them. I use them. I have the Jenny. I have the Downtown Jenny, which is a downcut bit. And I also have all three of the downcut V-bits, 90 degree, 60 degree, and 30 degree. And they are a good quality product. So, a couple of ways you can use the compression bits. You're gonna, again, have to get that upcut portion down into the material before it starts tearing up your top surface. So let's put this back up here into V-carve, and I have this star right here. Now, there are a couple of ways of doing this, and it's going to depend on what your project is. If you are going to cut this star out of this piece and you're keeping the star is your project, and this is your waste material, we're going to do a profile toolpath. And we're going to just go up here to the profile. We're going to select the vectors. I'm going to go up here into my tool database, and I don't think I entered the Jenny bit. I think I just considered it a regular 2-flute end mill, 1/4-inch end mill. But I know that this is a compression bit, so I'm going to change this, change these tool path. Excuse me. I'm going to change this tool. No, I am going to change the tool path to accommodate it. Please excuse me. My meds have kicked in hard here. Right now I can see that I have a mistake in this entry. I didn't use the edit, and my feed rate and plunge rate are wrong. My plunge rate should be 60, not 120. I set my plunge rate to half of the feed rate. And I'm going to apply that. I made a mistake in changing it in the tool database. I shouldn't have done it that way. Okay, so this is all set up and we're good here. I'm going to select that. My cut depth is going to be all the way through my material, so we're going to go with 0.75. Now, again, I'm cutting out the star, and this is my scrap. So I'm going to go to the outside of that vector. Normally, I would do a separate last pass if I was using an upcut or a downcut end mill. This time, I'm not. Now, I've looked here, and I see that I'm taking 6 passes. I'm going to edit these passes because, again, I have to get that upcut portion down into the surface of the material before it actually starts cutting around this vector. So I'm going to just bring the number of passes. I've measured the upcut portion, and it's roughly 1/8 of an inch. But I want this to be a little bit more. I can do this a couple of ways. I could do my first pass depth. I can change that. And in this case, I'm going to make it 0.15, just so I can bury that upcut portion in there before it has a chance to start cutting around my star. And I can hit apply. Okay? Now, that's one method of doing it. That means that my first pass is going to be 0.15, and after that, it's going to go back to every pass is going to be 1/8 of an inch deep. Or I can get rid of that. No, that was a mistake. And I'll make the first pass depth 0.125. Click apply. There we go. I've got it back to what it should be. Conversely, what I could do is I come down here and edit the number of passes. And I can bring that down to 5 passes. Now, all of the passes are going to be 0.15. So that's one option. The other is just to change the depth of the first pass. Now, my machine can handle 0.15, so I'm going to go ahead and go with 0.15 for all of these passes. What that does is that buries that upcut portion down in the surface of the material. All right. And we're going to go set passes. Then we'll go OK. So now I've got 5 passes. But we're not done yet. So I'm not going to do a separate last pass. I don't need to. I may or may not add tabs, but that is something you got to think about. And that's up to you. It's not going to affect the top surface quality unless you do it wrong. And what I mean by that is by the time you get down to needing tabs, you're already going to be, that upcut portion is going to be buried in the material and you'll be well away from damaging the surface. Okay? Now we're going to come down here to the important part. You can ramp in, but that is still going to bring that bit in. And that upcut portion is still going to cut on that vector. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to jump over to leads. Now we're going to add a lead. Now we're cutting to the outside of the vector, and that's important to remember. Let's take a look here at where the starting point is on this star. So I've got it selected. I'm going to go into node editing, and we see this is the start point. I don't want this to be the start point. I don't like my start cuts to be on an inside corner. So I'm going to bring it out here, right click, make start point. So this is my start point. Okay? I'm going to tap N to come out of node editing. I've still got it selected. But now I know my cut's going to start right here. And I'm going to add a lead. Now here, I need to decide where that lead is going to be. I can use a straight line lead. I can use a circular lead. I'm going to go with a straight line lead. And I'm going to make that angle 0. So it's going to go straight over. Okay? I'm also going to make that, because I've got enough material, I'm going to give it 1.25 inches. So what that means is the lead is going to start out here. It's going to plunge in, and it's going to start the cut, and it's going to ramp its way down to that 0.15. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to plunge straight in to that 0.15 and then cut this way. Meaning that upcut portion is going to be buried in the material out here, away from this star. Then it'll cut as normal. Now, as Butch is relating to, On a compression bit, I like a combination of ramp lead-ins so any ragged from the upcut portion is not in the part itself. And that is the secret. The ragged portion is not in the part itself. So in that first option, that first pass is a plunge. Is the first pass the important one? Yes. It is arguably the most important one because that's going to determine whether all your chip out and your ragged stuff is out here or right here where your bit's starting to plunge into your star, to cut out your star rather. Now, we can see what we've got going here, but we also need to think about, do we need a lead out? Because when that bit comes back around and it's cut out, it's going to pull up. It's going to retract out of the material. And the potential is there for it to yank that out again, to chip out everything as the upcut portion comes up out of the material. So yes, we want to do a lead out. Now, what an overcut distance is, our lead in starts here. We want a little bit of an overlap here so that the lead out comes this way. So our overcut distance, I'm going to make, let's just make that 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. That's good enough. All right. Now, as Butch alluded to it, sorry, Butch, sorry, Bruce, we're also going to do a ramp. And I'm going to add a smooth ramp. And we're going to make it match that lead in. So it's going to ramp on the lead that we created here. All right. Now, I'm going to make this cutout one because we're going to do a different type here in a minute. And we'll calculate. One or more leads were clipped or removed. To avoid gouging one or more leads, one or more leads had to be reduced in length or removed completely. The ramp on lead-in option was also selected. Therefore, no ramps will be created in the cases where the leads were not added. Check the toolpath is still suitable for your requirements. Okay. So this is showing, let's move here. This is showing the lead in. And I think what's happened is the lead out has been clipped. So I'm going to slow this way down so we can see what it does. Not that slow. And we're going to preview it. And now here we can see it's ramping down way out here. So it's not actually getting into the profile of the star. That compression portion is down, is now cutting along this way. And that upcut portion started its cut out here. Okay? I can speed up and we can get through it. All right. So we can tilt it back up here, get rid of it, and we can see we have our star. All right, it did not do the lead out. That's the one that got clipped, mainly because it was right here on this corner. I think it would have brought that in on this corner. So, let me reset the preview. And we'll go back into this toolpath. Basically, what we're looking at is let me mark that. Okay. So there we go on that. That's if we're cutting out the star and this is our scrap. Well, what if we're cutting out the star and the star itself is our scrap? Well, let me close that, and we're going to do a different version of the same thing. We're going to do a profile toolpath, but this time the main change I'm going to make is we're going to cut to the inside of the vector. We're cutting this out. Now I need to go back to my lead, and I'll probably need to make that shorter. So let's go with 1 inch. 1.0. And we're going to do a lead out with an overcut of 0.5. All right, that's the only difference. Now this is my start point. And again, I don't want my start point to be on an inside corner. So I'm going to go into node editing. Oops. I'm going to go to node editing, and I'm going to make this inside corner the start point. Then we'll tap in to come out of node editing, and we'll continue on. So that's the only change I made. I made a slightly shorter lead length and a slightly shorter overcut distance. I'm going to leave the ramp the same, add a ramp in, a ramp on the lead in. We are back to 6 passes. I see that because it's a new toolpath. So let me go up and fix that. I'm going to go up to edit passes. I'm going to change it down to 5 passes. We have to set the number of passes for it to take effect. Click OK. And I'm going to call this cutout 2. And we'll calculate. Now we see what's going on the inside. It's going to come up here. It's going to plunge in, ramp down, and start cutting. Come back and do the next pass. Come back and do the next pass. And here is where it's going to retract. Come back over, plunge to the next cut, retract, come back over, go down, etc. All of this to keep that upcut portion buried down in the material where it won't tear up the top surface. So now let me bring my speed down. We'll back out a little bit, and we'll preview that toolpath. And there we go. Now we're cutting out the star on the inside. And this ramp portion is well away from this edge. I can go ahead and bring it up to full speed so we can finish it up. And we can clear out our waste material. And there's our cut project. So the main thing to take away from this in using a compression bit is the important part is to get that upcut portion out of, get it down in the surface of the material, down below the surface of the material before it gets to the vector you're actually cutting, be that on the inside or the outside. And do that by using ramps and leads to get that upcut portion plunged in there away from the actual project itself. Now that may mean if you're cutting out more than one project, that may mean you need to adjust the space between however many of these you're cutting out at a time. You may have to expand that space, which means you can have to cut fewer parts out. But the main reason for using a compression bit in and of itself is to get a nice looking top surface and a nice looking bottom surface. So, combination of ramps and leads. And this is another case of preview early, preview often, and node editing being an essential skill, even for something as simple as moving your vector start point. So you've got to know that that option is there. If you're cutting out the inside and the outside of the material is the project, you'll want that start point on an inside corner. If you're cutting out to the outside of the vector and the shape you're cutting out, in my case a star, that's the project, then you want that start point to be on an outside corner or in the middle of a span, away from corners. But I prefer outside corners. Just my personal preference. You do you. What works for you is great. But generally speaking, inside corners don't work so well when you're cutting out the shape, and the shape is the project. So, and again, preview early, preview often. You may be able to move things around and change angles to where you can get more parts on a piece of material. Then again, you may have to space them further apart. That's up to you. You're the one that's going to decide what the important part is. So 8th Center comes along and he says, next question maybe, speaking of ramps and leads, how would you do a pizza peel taper? A 12-inch taper from 0.5 to say 3, I think you mean 3/8. You could ramp that in and have that taper be a part of that cut. For that, if you are, and I'm going to assume you're using you're talking about cutting that radius there where the, 3/16. Okay, 3/16, not 3/8. In that case, I'm assuming you're talking about using a pretty large diameter, very shallow angle bit, like say a 120 degree V bit or 130 degree or something of that along those lines. So you've got a large diameter and a real shallow angle. For that, I think I would use ramps and leads again, but make sure that that lead was out far enough to accommodate that large diameter. But for that, I don't know if I would use a profile toolpath. I think what I would do for that is I would use the largest I have is a 1/2-inch bowl bit. Okay, now you're talking about, now you may be talking about a molding toolpath or the fluting toolpath. Well, with a 1/2-inch bowl bit, I don't know that I would go with the fluting toolpath. If you had, say, an 1.5-inch diameter, 120 degree V-bit, or 2-inch diameter, 120 degree V-bit, you could use the fluting toolpath. But if you have a spire, you could make it with, you can make a 3D model real easy. If you have V-carve, and the largest you have is a 1/2-inch diameter bowl bit, I would look at the molding toolpath set to the angle that you want. And you'd have to figure out that angle by, making a point that's, what did you start at? You want to go down to 3/16, but you want to go from 1/2 to 3/16. You could draw those vectors and figure out what that angle would look like. And then use that profile with your molding toolpath to get that 1/2 inch bowl bit to create that slope on the end. That question is being asked several times. I think what I'm going to do as soon as I can is I'm going to go ahead and do a video on that, how to make that kind of taper using the molding toolpath. I've done a video on an inside taper, but not an outside taper, and they're not really that much different. In fact, I did a video on creating a tapered hole with V-carve using the molding toolpath. And what I'll do is I'll find, let's see, I'll write myself a note. I'll find a link to my tapered hole video, and I'll put that in a pinned comment as soon as we're done here. Tapered hole. There, I just wrote myself a note. And that'll show you how to use the molding toolpath 8-center. I don't know how to pocket a molding toolpath though. That video, in fact, there's Steve with a link right there. That video will show you how to use it. The main difference will be the direction that you want that taper to run. And I will use your example of a pizza peel when I create that video. Now, nope, wrong one. There it is. Leo Steger says Garrett has a video on making a pizza peel. He does. I have a video on pizza peel over on IDC Woodcraft, which again I'm already going to link down in a pinned comment as soon as we're done. But he uses a like 120-degree V-bit to carve that. He doesn't use the molding toolpath. I will use the molding toolpath. So, okay. So I've made notes to put those links in a pinned comment as soon as we're done live. And I say, we're done live. I mean, I can't do it while we're live. YouTube won't allow me to. So, anyhow, that I will take care of. You could, I guess, ramps and leads can be done. I don't think I can do ramp or a lead with the molding toolpath. I would have to kind of engineer it, but I'd have to look into it because I don't think I can do that. I think you can only use ramps or leads on the profile toolpath, and I'm looking here. Yeah, you can only use a ramp or a lead on the profile toolpath. You can ramp in your plunge moves on a molding toolpath, but you can't lead into it. So, and that's not really an issue. So, all right. Now, Wade Custon says, angle the material and use a surfacing bit if you're making a lot of them. I've seen that done too, where you actually angle and say you want a 120-degree angle. You set up your material on a 120-degree angle and you just surface that edge flat, and it will have the same effect. You can even create, if the end of your pizza peel is curved, you could just draw a vector with that curve and have that profile toolpath follow that curve. Just cut on the vector and make enough of them to where it would cover the entire area you want cut. So since Liberty shared her video this week, it's been on my mind how to do it the other way, and did wonder if tapering the material is a better way to go. I've said it before and I will say it again. There may be 100 ways to do things. But if you are getting the outcome you want, if it turns out the way you wanted it to turn out, if you did it safely, meaning you didn't damage the bit, you didn't damage your machine, you didn't put yourself or others in danger. Nobody was in danger of a chunk flying off and hitting them in the face. You didn't hurt yourself. So if you got the expected outcome, you did it safely, and nothing was damaged, and nobody was damaged, you did it right. Now, will other methods be faster, maybe safer? Probably. And it's up to you to try those out or seek those out. You may find it more of a pain to try to set up your material at 120 degrees than it is to just get a 120 degree V-bit and be done with it. But that's your choice to make. So, the choice is 100% yours. So, all right, let me see if I have any other questions tagged here. Let's see. We got rid of those. Oh, okay. Jim Brown says, is it better to use a compression bit for the clearing pass or an upcut bit on 3D carves? I would probably say it's better to use an upcut bit than a compression bit. Simply because a compression bit, the main advantage of a compression bit is edge finish and top and bottom finish. I would continue to use an upcut on a 3D carve, and unless you're doing a 3D carve inside of a pocket and that top edge, you need that top edge to be pristine, in which case I would use a downcut bit at least for the perimeter of that carve. But if you're machining away the entire top surface, or you're going to be cutting out the piece with a profile toolpath, an upcut bit's the better choice for a 3D roughing toolpath, or even for the clearance pass on a 3D finishing toolpath, because the whole point is to get those chips up and out of there. Compression bit does not give you any advantage there, and in fact, it may just make things a little bit harder on the edge. You know what I'm saying? So, when you're doing a 3D roughing toolpath, you're just trying to make life easier for your tapered ball nose bit. And you're going to leave a skin. You're using that what's it called? Come on. No. Close. You're using that machining allowance. I couldn't think of the words. You're using that machining allowance of 20 thousandths, 30 thousandths, whatever it is. That's leaving that skin over the model itself. So your tapered ball nose is only coming in and removing that 20, 30, 40 thousandths, whatever you had it set for. That's not going to damage the tip of that tapered ball nose, especially when you're using something really fine with like a 0.25 millimeter tip radius. You're not damaging that bit. So the thing is to get those chips up and out of there, away from it. Now, Midnight Sunworks says, I use a compression bit on all my 3D carves and they turn out real nice. Yeah, again, because that upcut portion is right down there above that, or cutting to that machining allowance. So I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying I don't think there's really any advantage in it. And compression bits are a little bit pricier than a standard upcut end mill. So I'm not saying you can't do it. You certainly can. And Midnight Sun Woodworks gets a good result out of it. I just don't see an advantage. So unless, of course, like I said, you're doing a carve that's down inside of a pocket and you want that outside edge of that pocket to look good. In which case, yes, a compression bit is has a good advantage. But I also just use a downcut end mill. The only time I ever use this compression bit is when I'm cutting out a shape. And then, to be honest with you, I don't cut out many shapes where both sides need to be pristine. My go-to is a downcut end mill. But I do have the compression bit, and it does have its place. But I don't want to wear out a bit that costs about 25% more than a standard downcut end mill. And these, I don't buy expensive stuff. This is just a Bosch. They call it a solid carbide 2-flute straight mortising bit. And I picked these up at my local Lowe's for about $18. They've gone up here recently because the price of carbide has skyrocketed. So expect bits to get real expensive real quick. Hello, camera. You going to focus back on me? No, you're going to stay focused on my hand. See, if I want it focused on my hand to show you a bit, it wouldn't do it. So, see, Robert G. FBG says the IDC pizza peel bit is 150 degree. Yeah, I knew it was something with a shallow angle, 150, 120, something like that. But I couldn't remember off the top of my head which one it was. And again, I will link IDC Woodcraft down in a pinned comment as soon as we're done live here. I just can't do it while we're live. YouTube won't let me. So, 8 Center says, Midnight Sunworks, are you doing thick material 3D carves? If you're not going to be painting the piece, it's generally accepted that the thicker the 3D carve, the better, because your shadows tend to be, you tend to get more shadows, and you can let the shadows and light play over the surface where you get that deep 3D effect. If you're going to be painting your piece, the 3D carving, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be real deep. And in fact, a deeper carve can work against you because now you got to get paint or whatever it is you're coloring with. You need to get it down in there into those deep cracks and crevices. Sometimes that can be pretty daunting. So, you know, in the case of real deep carves like that, I have a 1/2 inch downcut end mill that I use, 1/2 inch diameter, because it's got a longer cutting length. These bits have a 1 inch flute length, so I can cut 1 inch deep, and my 1/2 inch end mill has a 2 inch cut depth. So it works great. I love it, but it's a beast. It is a monster, and it'll sling. It sticks out. It's just long enough to where about a 1/2 inch of it sticks out below my dust collector brush. So the first pass, it's slinging stuff all over the place. And that's just typical. It does it on the plunge, even though it's throwing, ejecting chips downwards, they still bounce out because that is a beast. So, alrighty. Well, we've been on for roughly an hour. Are there any other questions? I don't have anything stop here. Interesting bump. Finally booted up my Axiom Iconic and only went to 46%. Chat GPT says it's an auto-rich controller glitch. Ouch. It says I have to write to the company for a firmware file. Sheesh. Yeah, that happens. That happens. It's a major pain. And this comes down to, and I know this doesn't sound logical at all. You would think machines that are used a lot would be the ones that would have problems because they're constantly in use. But it's the machines that are down for a long time that tend to have problems like that. So it's kind of strange. But yeah, it just, sorry, that happens sometimes. I mean, I'm kind of dreading turning this one on because I haven't done anything in 14 months. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. How to do 3mm holes, 700 of them. Steel HSS bit? No. Or carbide end mill. I would go with a carbide end mill. Make sure it's an upcut end mill. Having said that, do you need 3mm or would 1/8 work for you? Which is, let's see, I want to say it's 125, yeah, 3.175 millimeters. If that'll work for you, again, IDC Woodcraft makes a drill bit, a solid carbide CNC drill bit that is 3.175 millimeters, made for 1/8 inch pegs for cribbage boards. And it is a CNC drill bit. Now, there you can get, yes, he calls them the lightning bit. Now, if that won't work for you, look for CNC drill bits. They do exist. They're out there. And the difference between a CNC drill bit and just an HSS drill bit, there is a difference in the helix. So it'll evacuate the chips faster because your spindle and your CNC is going to move faster than, say, you with the drill press or a hand drill. So the helix is different on a CNC drill bit than a end mill. Having said that, end mills to drill holes all the time. You just have to make sure they're upcut end mills. That's all. Just make sure they're upcut end mills. So, yeah, I use end mills all the time. And they work great. You're doing them, wow. You're doing them in hardwoods. Yeah, you can use an upcut end mill. And that saves you after buying anything super special or going out and finding bits. But there are CNC drill bits. Just know that. The next question I would ask you is, do you have a 3mm chuck? Or are you using 6mm? I mean, not chuck, call it. Or are you using 6mm? So... and if I need a clean top, peck it first with a downcut thin drill popper. Yeah, you could do that. You could do a, let's say, a first peck 1/4 of the way deep of your final drill depth. You could do, say, a I don't know how deep, how thick your material is, say a 1mm peck with a downcut end mill, just to get that looking pretty. And then come back with a upcut to finish it off. Sure, you could do that, you know. But then you have a tool change and things of that nature. But if you've got 700 holes to drill, you're in for a long duration. So, you know. Then Butch Miller has another point. Do you have enough material to use an upcut bit and then surface past that chip out? I don't know what you're doing, so you know me, always designing long work stuff. Yeah, well, you've sent me pictures of some of the stuff you do, and you're a braver man than I am because you do some. You done some real. You do some real intricate stuff. So. Drilling with a downcut's a good way to start a barbecue. Yes, and I'm living proof of that. This is anecdotal, but it's not a friend of a guy I knew who used to date a girl who has a brother who, no, this was me. I started a fire drilling with the downcut bit, but I was drilling all the way through the material and shoving all of those chips. I was drilling through plywood and shoving all of those chips down through the material and into the MDF spoil board because I wanted to go all the way through. And the friction alone was enough to start a fire. And yeah, wasted a perfectly good pebble. Well, only half of it, but I had to put it out with something. So, yeah, I did it. I don't know a guy who knows a fella who worked with a dude who was dating somebody whose brother did it. It was me. I done it. And I freely and openly admit it. Use me as a cautionary tale. So. Butch Miller's absolutely right. A very shallow surfacing after using an upcut will get rid of the fuzzy upcut chips. Yes, it will. And it eliminates any possibility of a problem. I suggested a downcut for like 1 millimeter deep. And, that's the thing. The internet has two opinions on drilling: HHS fast with air or end mill slow and pecking. But you have to think about what they're doing. Machinists, when they're drilling metal, will use high-speed steel. But remember, your CNC router is not a Bridgeport mill. Your spindle is spinning a lot faster than the spindle on a Bridgeport. So they can take that spindle down to 600, 700, 800 RPMs and use a high-speed steel drill to drill in aluminum or whatever, because their spindle's not spinning at 10, 12, 14,000 RPM. So, those high-speed steel bits are not designed for that. And, you're talking about real fast RPMs. I don't know if your CNC uses a router or a spindle, but chances are your minimum spindle speed is not going to be slow enough to safely use and Stubbs' mom, Miss Carrie, is asking, what is HSS? High-speed steel is what HSS is. So that's a PWN spindle, 2.2 kilowatt. Yeah, I don't know what the minimum speed on that is, but it's probably going to be too fast for a high-speed steel bit. They're just not designed for it. So 3 millimeters is a pretty small diameter bit. It might survive, but do you want a piece of that bit getting flung at you? I don't think so. Yeah, 8K. So that's a little bit too fast for a high-speed steel bit. And you don't want that you don't want that a piece of that flying at you. So just use an end mill, an upcut end mill. You probably already have one. So, yeah, a high-speed steel bit at that speed might also bend, which could potentially lead to breakage, which could potentially lead to shrapnel. It ain't worth it. 3mm end mills are not expensive. If you go on eBay and look up a seller that goes by Drillman1, he sells Kyocera bits in little 5-packs, and they're not expensive. In fact, that's what I use. Looks like that. I wrote upcut on it because I was tired of getting them confused. There are 5-packs. These are 1/8 inch, but he also has 3mm. And on eBay, and he goes by Drillman1. I will look for a link, but if you go to eBay and look up Drillman1, you'll find him. I will look for a link and put him in a pinned comment. So let me write that down. All right, I will look for it. And these are not expensive. And Kyocera makes a good bit. They make a real good bit. I've had these for 8-9 years, and I've only burnt one up. And that's the one that's way over here. I burnt that one up. I don't know why I haven't thrown that in the scrap bucket yet. Oh, I think because I got to get that ring off of there so I can put it in my carbide scrap. I have upcut bits and downcut bits by him, and they're pretty good. I don't know if he's USA based or not. Something's telling me he's in Canada, but I'm sure there's got to be somebody local to you. Just know that if nothing else, okay, Drillman1 is in Texas, so it's US based. Sorry about that. If nothing else, you can find the Kyocera 3mm end mill part number and do a search on your own. Maybe you can find a UK supplier. But if you just do a Google search for a 3mm solid carbide upcut end mill, I'm sure Amazon.uk has them. I'm sure you'll find either a local shipper or a local supplier. So I know we tend to, I can complicate a marble, but sometimes it doesn't pay to overthink. So there is a definite advantage to CNC drill bits in that you can just do a straight down plunge, and because that helix, it's going to eject the chips up out of that hole, versus an end mill, even an upcut end mill, you should be pecking, so you don't overheat the bit. Whereas a drill bit is made for that. That's its whole job. But alrighty, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you, folks, for the questions. I do appreciate it, and I will try to get into the molding toolpath and try a pizza peel and just see how that works out. And then maybe we can talk about that again. We can revisit it next week. No guarantee, but I'll do what I can. And we'll see how that goes. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Channel members, tomorrow, I'm not sure what we're doing. I've had a couple of suggestions. I'm weighing them both. I think I have something. I know Kurt had a question. Kurt from Crafty Jans LLC. He's had a question, and I think that one's going to take precedence. but maybe we can get into something else if we have time. We'll see. No guarantees because the simple 5-minute ones usually take 2 hours to complete. And that's tomorrow evening. I have not yet set up the live stream. I'm going to do that as soon as we're finished here. That'll be tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern is when we kick things off. If you have your notification settings set to all notifications and your email settings set, you should receive an email when with the link as soon as I get finished setting it up. If not, navigate over to the post tab on my YouTube channel and you'll find the link right there in the top of my posts. And I hope you'll join us. That's tomorrow night. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, or maybe you want some information on how to become a channel member, we got a great group and there's plenty of room for you to come join us. Down below this video panel, you'll see the word join. Just click that word join. You're not joining anything. What's going to happen is another video is going to pop up and play. It's going to tell you all about channel membership. Again, we got a great group of folks, and there's plenty of room for you. And you can come join an excellent group. We have the super secret WhatsApp group. WhatsApp is not social media. It is a encrypted texting program where you can text to the group, and we post pictures and we answer questions and we talk about all kinds of stuff. And 100% of the membership is all dedicated to the same thing, and that is helping each other succeed in whatever project we've got going. So we'd love to have you join us. Next Sunday, I don't really know what's going to happen. Again, I've got a couple of things on the back burner. We'll see how that works out. You'll just have to come find out. Again, happy Father's Day to all you fathers. For those of you who are overseas and don't have a Father's Day, or you're not a father or a paternal figure or a father figure in someone's life, have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. And yeah, y'all take care. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you.